Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. I am your humble host, Mr. David Null, also known as Hawkeye Two Feathers. And strange things going on with the computer and with the internet. So the last live stream I did, it just quit. It just quit. The screen went blank and it just quit. So I hope you all are doing well this morning, this afternoon, or this evening, wherever you may be. And I continue to pray that each and every day, that each and every one of you will continue to learn how to accept and receive the knowledge, the healing, the wisdom, and the many blessings from the universe. And I do greet you with the love and the honor of the infinite creator. And maybe I've repeated this, and the old age and short term memory, sometimes long term memory goes, hey, Joe, and hey, Mark, how are you? Sometimes it works. Oh, yeah, the technology. Yeah, sometimes it works. And we're very glad when it does. And I want to thank Bob out there, who is our um, resident AI. We love you and thank you. And I got coffee to share. I don't have any donuts, though. I'm short on donuts. But anyway, hey, Miss Pearl. I had this little the subject for this morning's discussion. It was I was watching something. It was all about what is the meaning of love. Can you answer? The characters were asking one another. Can you answer the question? What is love? Well, it's a love between a mother and her child, or it's a love between a husband and a wife, or it's a love between Hey, Steve, how are you? Did I say hi? Mark, yep. Joe, yep. Pearl, yep. Steve, yep. Hi, howdy. Hope you all are doing well. And so, love is is described, in many different ways by many different people by what their view is of love. I really love my cup of coffee in the morning. Am I in love with coffee? Yeah, you could say that. And come to think of it, let's have a sip of Maxwell House. No, I'm sorry, it's Folders. Ooh, the Black Pearl, meaning the ship in the movie, the what you call it. I was thinking of the movie where the name of the ship is the Black Pearl. Cinnamon and clove. Hmm. I've tried clove before, and it's takes getting used to, but I've not tried cinnamon. Thank you, Pirates of the Caribbean, or the Caribbean. It's the Caribbean, man. No, it's the Caribbean. It's the Caribbean. I had been sitting on my porch watching the rain. Well, at least it's still raining, right? Hopefully that mud puddle had got too big, Steve, or have you gone swimming in it? Do you have frog feet? Never mind. Right back at you, Pearl. High vibes and cosmic hugs to everyone. That bears repeating. So, but anyway, I'm looking out the window and I'm thinking, gee whiz, I'd really like to go on a hike to the woods, but I'm not walking too good these days, because of my back. And it's coming along. And oh, by the way, to do a little bit of update about my back and so forth, I had an epiphany the other day. And years ago, I had my neck operated on, and they would cut the iliac crest off of the top of your hip. I'm not sure if they still do that to this day, but they did it. And so the first surgery, I had two pieces of my right hip in my neck. And then the surgery didn't work, and I had to go back in, and they used donor bone, which I couldn't wait to get out. And then I did it a third time on my neck, and they took my left hip, the iliac crest, off of the top of the hip. So there's a little incision, not very big, but the amount of pain that the bone hurt after they took the bone out. And doctors and everybody, oh, that doesn't hurt. I don't know why you people are complaining about this, until one of the doctors had to have a similar surgery done to him, and they cut the top of his hip off. And he was like, oh my God, I had no idea how bad the bone hurt after it was cut. You're all sewed up, and it would hurt literally for months and sometimes years later. The bone. And it's like, wait a minute, now all we did was cut the top of the bone off and use it in your neck. Yeah, but my neck quit hurting months ago and my hip still hurts. The bone still hurts. And all the doctors, no, it can't hurt. No, it can't hurt. Well, I just realized something the other day, epiphany wise, and I'm thinking back over, how come my back hurts so bad? And the doctor went in, would ground all the bone out. He really did a really good job. I saw the work myself, at least from the MRI. And I'm like, why am I hurting? Then I had this hip thing, and I went, oh my God, the reason I'm hurting so bad is because of all the bone that he ground away. My spine is reacting very similarly to the way the bone reacted in my both hips hurt, but the surgeries were done at different times. But there was at one time, a couple of years after my second surgery, that both of my hips hurt at one time, and I was bitching and complaining, and I'm like, and all the doctors said, oh, well, that's impossible. The bone can't be hurting after all this time. Well, guess what? The bone does hurt on its own. So there must be some kind of nerve endings or something on the bone itself that bears it's hurting. So because nothing else is visible for for this pain to occur. So, but anyway, with the epiphany came oh, I'm just going to have to get used to this until the bone glosses over, or to whatever has to happen to the bone for it to come back to normal, or something. So, but anyway, so with that said, um, it was an interesting that sometimes, the things that we don't expect are what's really going on, kind of thing. So anyway, in nature, I'm looking out the window, and sometimes the things we don't expect, meaning nature. And I was thinking, about God versus the Creator. And the God of the Bible is can be a mean son bitch, and he's all about do this, or there's gonna be hell and brimfire fall upon you. Um, and that, sorry, that was a weird burp. And that, if you don't follow all these rules and regulations and everything, God's going to smite you. And the only love is the true love of God. And so there's the God of the Old Testament that's really, he was mean. And so where do you get love out of this character? Why should we devote our love to this character? So I'm thinking about this the other day, and I'm thinking, I don't believe in that. I gave up on the God of the Old Testament, and I believe in the Creator. And I'm thinking to myself, the Creator hasn't done anything mean or bad to me that I know of. You know, well, people will say, well, there are storms and there are tornadoes. And what about the people that have froze to death in the north? What about all those cold winters? Well, here, let me just invite you with this. The Creator built this beautiful planet, and the planet with all of the things on it is the love of the Creator towards us. There's food, there are things to make shelters with, there's everything that is provided by the Creator. Well, did God bring him? Well, let's just stick with the creator for the moment, because the love of the creator is all around us. And you can say, well, I don't know, what about all those snowstorms, and what about all these other things? And well, Mother Nature, did the creator do it? Did God make that tornado that killed them people? Did God make this happen? Or did it just kind of sort of happen because of, the natural order of things? So I don't think the creator expected Eskimos, okay, to make their living and everything on the ice. But he made the ice before he made the people, and people chose to move there and to be a part of the ice and to live on the ice. And the creator gave them a hell of a lot of ingenuity to be able to live on the ice and survive. Oh my God. And well, what about, well, why? Well, listen, dinosaurs didn't live at the North Pole. Elephants don't live at the South Pole. They live south of the equator, but they don't live at the South Pole. Okay. There are certain animals and critters that live where they live because that's where they live. The climate suits them. There's food and vegetables and everything. I mean, penguins, live at the South Pole because they can live down there. They were made to live down there. Between the tooth and the bones from other areas, the grand deception. Meaning that the teeth have nerves in them. Yes, I would agree with that. Does the other bones have nerves in them too? And Joe, and my answer to that would be, I think so. Simply because of my own personal experience with bone hurting. Boy, that's really lagging on my end. I'm gonna have to call up the Windstream and do a bit of bitching. They charged me $20 extra on my phone bill this month, and they didn't my service has been worse. So, and why $20 more all of a sudden? Just ain't no late fees or whatever. Um, but hey, Mossy, how you doing? Right knowledge and favor. Thank you. But so anyway, so there's the God of the Bible, which everything is provided. God gave this to man, and God's yes or no, and we've been good, yes or no, bad, good, mean. The Creator. There ain't nothing of that going on with the Creator. The Creator provides these things for us. In many of the natives, legends and stories that I have told, and that we've told over on Milky Way show with Robert, like we did tonight. But um, the many things that were handed down. Do y'all see me lagging out there? And is the video doing wompy things? Bob, grow up. That's a funny one, Mark. I appreciate that. Come on, Bob, grow up. Yeah. Find out why they charged me more for my internet this month and why my service is worse. It looks okay there. Well, it's jumping all over the place on my screen here. So, but anyway, um, so the idea of God versus creator. Now, I'm going to do a separate video on God versus creator later, the creator later. Time for a bowl. But in thinking about the difference between the two, I'm like, but the creator just provided all these things, and that shows the love of God, if you will, of the Creator. Because there's all of these wonderful things. Yeah, Mossy Man, what time? I got a doctor's appointment tomorrow afternoon. So, but when I get home from the doctor's and before I go to the doctor's, but what are you going to call me tomorrow? Are you going to call me stupid and dumb? And never mind. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But with with all the stories and everything that I've read and talked about over the years, Creator has provided 1 p.m. your time, which is 2, 3, 4 o'clock my time, 3 hours. I might be home by then. So the Creator's given us all these things. And for every illness, Creator gave a plant or something or a mineral. So in the grand scheme of things, plants and animals on this and rocks and minerals on this planet were put here before man. All right. Which is interesting because in the stories, man was put here and man sort of complained to the Creator and said, hey, we're being sick and we're doing this. And so Creator said, well, then I'll give you these plants to take care of your sicknesses. And I'll give you these minerals to help with this. And we'll give you these animals, like the elk and the deer have offered themselves up along with the buffalo, not so much the buffalo now, but for food and for clothing and for other items, and so the Creator provided all these things for us. And now the God of the Bible, not necessarily, because everybody had to pray for him before God would intercede or whatever, you know. And so the God of love in the Bible is always got some kind of preconditions, you know. But with the Creator, there are no preconditions. You're just loved by the Creator. Well, what about this cold weather, hot weather? What about these different things? Well, you know what? Here's the planet, here's the sun, here's the solar system, here's all these orbits, and there's all this other stuff going on in the universe. So we have a cold snap. So we have a warm snap. So we have a tornado due to weather. Oh, but God's, mad at us. Is he really? Well, God gave us a cold front, with Robert tonight. He's just planting his garden, and down here, there are people's gardens that are already putting out food. But, nobody asked anybody to live up there where it's cold most of the year. People migrated there because they wanted to. But when the earth was created and the Creator made the earth, people move to the different locations themselves. All right. Oh, well, the weather is all because of the Creator or all because of God. God did this. Made a sandstorm. You live in the desert, sandstorms happen. You live in the desert, it's going to get hot. You live so far north, you're going to have snowstorms late or early, as the case may be. And it has happened for eons. This is not just us paying attention to it. I was watching a story the other day, and they were like, it was a cowboy western, and they were talking about the apocalypse. And two of them sitting there on the porch, and having a drink, and he was like, the world's fixing to come to an end here in about 10 years. What have we got to look forward to? And the other guy's like, 10 years, huh? Well, I guess I better get to drinking then. And he turns up the bottle, and you say this is the 1800s, and they're having Now, I know it's a script and it's a movie, but here's the thing. It was an older movie, so and not a recent movie, but here they are. They were talking about the end of the world in the Bible. And but wait a minute, so to them in the 1800s, the world's fixing to come to an end any minute now. The guy says 10 years, maybe 20. Yeah, that's right. World's going to come to an end. What the hell do we care? Well, 1800s. So people are reading the Bible and they thought back then, now I don't have proof of this, but if they were reading the same Bible, which many of them were, that the apocalypse and all the things that were happening to them, and the plagues and the droughts, and they just knew that God was fixing to come for them any minute back then. 200 years later, we're still talking about the same thing. Now, there are folks out there that are preaching we're all going to die tomorrow, and they've been preaching this now for going on, some of them now going on over 25 years, and we ain't dead yet. The folks that are claiming that the rapture is going to happen any day yet ain't happened yet. The folks that have been talking about the aliens going to show up any minute now ain't showed up yet. Just saying, at least not the way they said anyway. So there are a lot of things that people have been quoting. It's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's any day now. We ain't dead yet. So, but the God of the Bible has got everybody so scared that they're living their. And I was like this. Look at my older videos. I talked about the revelation, and I do feel like we're in the last days, if you will, because of all the prophecies. Hey, Chloe, how you doing? In that, I think the it ain't that the end of the world is here, but it's the end of an era, a long era. And I absolutely believe in that. But are we all going to die? Are we going to? Yeah, no, I don't believe that. But I still believe that we should be prepared because there are dumb things that happen all the time. Sometimes it's due to other people. Sometimes it's due to Revelation 12 did happen in 2017. Yeah, there are several things that have happened. It's like, and in Catholic prophecy too, the thing about the Pope, and that this Pope is the last Pope, and that other things, and blah, blah, blah. And in Revelations, they talked about the church, and, that the Vatican sits on 7 hills, and that's the 7 heads of the demon and so forth. Hey, Johann, how are you? Good to see you all. And so I do think that there are a lot of things that have happened that are listed in, the Bible in Revelations. And I do think that these things we're are we at the end of life? No, because in the Bible it says, the meek shall inherit the earth, and there's going to be 1,000 years of peace. So how can this be the end of the world? It's the end of craziness, I hope. They did look at the Yuga and speaks about new cycles of life and society. Yep, I agree. But so anyway, so is creator just creates stuff and kind of sort of leaves us here for our own devices. But the God of the Bible, you got to follow all these rules and do all these things, and other, and and they're going to keep you in fear. I was listening to something the other day, and it was like, the churches are there to keep you in line. And I was like, yeah, well, yeah, I sort of agree with that. Yeah, okay. Because they keep you in constant fear. And I was like, okay. Now, the Catholic Church, I was a Catholic. I can talk about this. 1,000 years of peace. Yeah, we'll see, right, Mark? I'm still waiting on some of this other stuff to happen. So, you know, I've just got a wait and see attitude. It's like, ooh, it's going to happen. Okay, we'll see. Yeah. Now, those things that we can actually put our teeth into, like there was a CME yesterday, it's going to strike the earth. Okie dokie, it's a 111 here. Oh, well, yep, 12, 12, 12 now. But anyway, hi, Chloe. I mean, well, hi, Chloe, and hi, Michelle. But anyway, so in this revelation of things, the creator just put us here and said, y'all have a good time, you know? Watch out for bears and dinosaurs, and watch out for dinosaurs with beers. Um, but we there are each of us have got our own thing we got to sort of tough it out. You know, I've had my back surgery, and the bones are complaining, and I'm just going to have to work this out. So other people will go through other things, and they're just going to have to work it out. But is it God's will? That's Everything is God's will. A tornado's been over my house twice since I've lived here. Well, it was God's will that you survived. No, I think it's because the house is low on the hill, and I think there's other things involved, but I do thank the creator it didn't hit me twice. It did hit my neighbor's barn twice, but did God necessarily reach his little finger down here? Because there was a crap load of storms going on at the time. So did God reach his little hand down here and say, no, skip over Dave's house again? Now, if I believe that, I'm like, what about all the other 100,000, close to a million people who were affected by the same storm? That God just so happened to look down and go, whoops, wait, let's skip over Dave's house again. Well, we don't want to, really? I would like to believe that. Now, I do believe that the angels have been watching out over me, but is that necessarily God? I mean, ooh, but God made the angels. Okay, so I would believe that the angels are watching out for me, where I would not necessarily believe that God is looking out for me. Okay, are there other entities and beings and so forth? Yeah, but is God, just by definition, there's all these people that are calling his name. He's too freaking busy. Okay, just saying. Well, he's all knowing and all this and that. Yeah, but if he ain't got a split personality, I don't know who does. With all these billions of people crying out his name all the time, just saying. So, but you call on an angel or two, or we've got guardian angels that look out for us. They could be helping us all the time. Whereas God's got a full, he's got a full bill. But with the idea that the creator of all things, the great spirit, it's the spirit of all of us combined in this. So is there a God watching out for us? Well, there's nature, but nature is beautiful. But sometimes there are high and low pressure systems that get together, and they make some bad storms. But is that God, pointing his finger and being mean to us again? If a flood comes to an area, I look at people and I go, you live in a floodplain, you dumbass. Look how close you are to that. Do you know what what it is to be in a flood zone? Have you ever even paid attention to some of this stuff? You live 25 feet from a creek, and then you bitch because it overflows in a heavy rain. You live on the side of the mountain and bitch because there's a landslide. I'm sorry, people pick places to live, and where they live. Ooh, I want to live by the ocean. And then when a storm comes, they want to bitch about hurricanes. You dumbass, you live on the ocean. The ocean does stuff. Okay? The planet wobbles and weaves and does stuff. And if you want to believe in God, sometimes God just plays funky tricks on people. But people live in places, and then when it floods, and then the mountain collapses, or you live in an earthquake zone, and you bitch because you had an earthquake and your house falls down. I'm sorry for all of the damage and so forth. I really am. But the bottom line is y'all picked that spot. Now, kids who were born in an earthquake zone don't have much choice, and sometimes life, they end up living in an earthquake zone. And a friend of mine was after me the other day and was like, I'm going to move to California. And I was like, seriously? Oh, yeah, I'm going to move to California. Well, you're about the only person that wants to move there because everybody else is trying to move out. But why would you want to move to an area that could very well fall off into the ocean? If it follows, Casey's predictions. But where there are earthquakes, it's not a joke. It's not like once in a while, they have them all the time there. And you would move to that place knowing that an earthquake is going to happen. How big it just depends on God, I guess, or the creator. But did the creator set up these scenarios? I think the creator made the earth and said, okie dokie, y'all do the best you can. I'm giving you all these things. But if you live too close to a river and it floods, don't bitch at me. Okay. Because sometimes it's going to rain more than others. Sometimes it's going to be dry more times than others. Sometimes it's going to get colder. Sometimes it's going to get warmer. You're living on top of a planet. Pay attention, you know. When I was looking at Robert did a couple of videos of what he did around his house, right? His cold frames. And there ain't a tree one anywhere in sight. As he goes around his yard and pans off in the distance, there ain't a tree one nowhere. So when the wind blows, it's really going to come across the prairie. When the snow blows, it's going to really blow across the prairie. Where if I've been out there and through South Dakota and there were a tree every once in a while, but mostly no trees. And he lives in North Dakota, which, oh my God, there really aren't any trees. So, but there's nothing to slow the wind down or the rain or the snow. There's nothing to go, you want to go sit under a shade tree and sip some lemonade. Well, but anyway, that you think about Louisiana and hurricanes. Yeah. Hey, Scotty boy. Yeah, but I like trees too. Me too. I couldn't live in the desert or where Robert lives up there with the prairies and the plains and oh my goodness gracious, I look out there and go. So where do you go for shade? you know, the wise man built his house upon the rock. God told us in the Bible where to build our home. Yeah, but to that point, there are folks who built their house on a rock in Alaska and then bitch about how cold it is. I but my point. What time is it? Oh, missed it. You were supposed to remind me, Michelle. It Mark, yeah, it's 4:20. There it is. It's 1:20. Okay, I didn't miss it. All right. Cheers, everybody. Now I'm not trying to tear the Bible up, but I can't remember anywhere where it's like God gave us all these things on earth just because He loves us. Well, if you got these things because if you don't pray to God and if you don't make these sacrifices to God, then God's going to smite you. Nothing anywhere in the with the God, I was going to say the advent of the creator, but with native folks talking about simply the creator, that the creator put it here without any necessarily any conditions. Now, if you live too close to something, if you live on top of the mountain, a storm could hit you and knock you over. Well, atheist, I'm a great swimmer. Yeah, get an inner tube. You're going to need water wings. You know, uh, never a yard without trees. A dog paddle for days. Yeah, or learn how to swim on your back and do that floating thing if you can. I float like a rock, so you know. So, but anyway, the creator gave these things just with no conditions, I'll say. But in the Bible, everything's got conditions. Well, you're gonna have a good crop if God wants you to, and if you pray hard enough, you can have a good crop. And if you pray hard enough, and with the creator theory thingy, it just is. You're left up to your own devices. And sometimes it rains and sometimes it don't. We could use a little rain right now. It rained last week and the river came up several feet, you know, but now we could use a little rain, just a quarter inch, not some, just where all we had all that rain last week or so, and spread a little to us now because the ground's hard and my blueberries need some water and and I can't carry water up the hill yet. So I'm still having issues, right? So, but is God picking on me because I don't have the water? Well, I've got water, I just can't get it up to the top of the hill. But since it hasn't rained, is God picking on me? Because there's no water on my blueberries. Well, if I was that believer in the Bible, I would be thinking, oh my God, what have I done wrong to where God hasn't sent any rain? It must be my fault, right? Because God, in the Bible puts a guilt trip on you. And religions literally put the fear of God in you. If you don't do this by these rules, then God's going to get you. You're going to have bad luck, whatever. And in with the creator, hopefully you do what's right. But is it creator's fault that he's picking on you? The creator's picking on me. Well, we're going to have to make a sacrifice, to the creator, because he's picking on all of us. Well, but to some tribes, that was like, we need to make a sacrifice. Yeah, let's throw a virgin in the volcano. Well, that didn't happen everywhere. But let's make a sacrifice of food. Let's make a sacrifice of penance. Let's not eat for a day, and or maybe 2 days, and ask the Creator to please bring rain. Send some rain our way. You know, but are they? And there were some people who would say that, well, Creator's mad at me. We've made the Creator mad. Did you really? I mean, honestly, did you really piss off this entity that's somewhere out in the universe? Did you really piss this entity off to where they're just, they just screw you. You're just going to be in a drought, nanny nanner, or you're going to get rain, or you're not going to get rain, or whatever. Or is it just that there are weather conditions that have just not worked themselves out right? It's just circumstances. It hasn't got to do with any, you know, I believe more that the reason we have droughts and issues has got a lot to do with these idiots that are playing with weather machines. You can bet your bottom dollar if you want to blame somebody, is it God? I remember way back in the day when weather was more normal. I remember we'd get a front come through every 3 or 4 days. Every 3 or 4 days, we'd get a front come through. Every 3 or 4 days, you'd watch the map. Every 3 or 4 days, we'd get a front to come through. We don't get fronts that come through the way they used to. The weather does not act the same as it did when I was a kid and growing up in the 60s. It just don't act the same. Do we still have bad weather and droughts and stuff? Yeah. But they've been tinkering with weather machines now for a while. And if you don't believe it by now, then I'm not going to go into it with you. But they are messing with our weather. Okay. For whatever reason they want to play God, they're playing with the weather. All right. So you want to blame God if you're listening to the Bible, or even if you want to blame the creator, blame the guys that are screwing with our weather, versus with the airplanes and stuff, and you know the drill. So, but what used to be normal circumstances and bad weather once in a while, it seems like we're having it all the time, in one place or another. Something is going on. So weather-wise. So, but again, are we blaming God? Or, is it the Old Testament? Have we as human beings done so much nasty stuff that God's got to put his finger down here, that he's got to mess with us? Because he ain't got nothing else to do. The universe is a big place, but we're the only ones that matter. I, that's the other part that's sort of wrong with me, as far as this thing. Well, if it is really God, God's busy with other stuff. We're not the only creatures in the universe, okay, whether you believe that or not, but come on. There are other things going on, and you're saying that he ain't got nothing better to do than to mess with this. Sorry, folks, but it's a ball. It ain't flat. But this tiny little ball hanging out here in space that requires all of his focus. Now, the Creator created all things. And so, and if you believe that, as I do, that we're kind of sort of left to our own devices, meaning we have the opportunity, there are things on my property that I could build a house with. You know, I mean, literally, I could, if I had a sawmill, I could cut down some of these huge pine trees I've got. I've got oak trees that could be felled and that are big enough. I've also got smaller things that, depending on how you want to do it, I've got a whole hill full of clay that I could make my own bricks. There, I could dig a hole in the side of the hill and live in the hill if I wanted to, or I could build me a palmetto shelter down in the swamp back there. Of course, I'd get washed out when it rained too hard, but you know, um, I could build a shelter. There are plenty of materials around here. It just depends on how I want to approach, how I want to build the house without leaving my driveway. Okay. All I need is to do it with. So, but the Creator has given me everything that I need. I just need to provide the work and the smarts about it and so forth in order to do this. But God didn't necessarily give it to me. Well, God gave me the trees. Yeah, well, okay. Um, and then there are those statements in the Bible that God gave dominion, over the planet to us, stupid humans. I just don't believe that in the least. And that's part of the reason we have so many problems. And there are some really stout Christians who believe we can rip up the earth anywhere we want to at any time that we want to, because God gave us dominion over the earth. And if you're those of us that are of the with the creation, the creator, the creator gave us the planet to overlook and maintain, not to tear the damn thing up and do with it what we wanted to. That is such a misunderstanding. But that's why we have open pit mines. 10 miles from me in Clockney, they've got huge open pit mines where they dig the clay out, and that's where kitty litter comes from. Literally 10 miles from here down the road. And underneath my property here is a bunch of kitty litter, but it's 20 feet down, and you'd have to rip off everything here to get at it. But it's there. So, but it doesn't give me the right to tear up the whole, my whole property to get to the kitty litter kind of thing. But that we have open pit mining all around here for different types of clay that's here. They mine clay, the red clay especially, because it works well on the bottoms of ponds. Well, we all like ponds. There's nothing wrong with a pond. But if it's sand on the bottom, the water's going to leak out. So you're going to line the pond with something, and clay's very, tightly put together. And with water, it really gets, tight. So they line the bottom of ponds also with rubber now, but with clay so your pond doesn't leak. So, clay's been used for, building for bricks, for building houses. White clay is used for all kinds of stuff. And, and there are folks now that are finding the benefits of eating white clay. And I've talked about it for years. But to this point, though, but the Creator gave us all these things when the planet was created and then made sure that over the years, if there was a disease, there was a plant. Well, if you take this plant or use this plant, and there are a lot of diseases and ailments that are absolutely cured by the plants and minerals on this planet. Oh, but God gave them all to us, really? Well, in the old traditions, God gave these things because man requires something. There's some kind of something about them, or man discovered it when the creator put things on this planet and then gave us the knowledge of how to use them. Where somehow God, it's a special gift from God, where the creator said, "Wait, if you use this plant hanging out over here and you use the root of it, maybe boil it once, and whereas whoa, the creator's already given us these things where God had to give us these things. God gave us this to cure this. Wait a minute, hang on. Can Am I making sense with the difference? It's a subtle difference. But the creator, it was already here, and the creator guides us to them where God has to, it's got to be, you got to pray for God to give it, everything's got to be with prayer and devotion and sacrifices. And we got to give money to a church in order. And the creator just said, wait a minute, and here's all this stuff that's already here. Just go over there and eat this plant, and you too can get better. So, but is God involved in that? Well, I don't know. But here's the thing, and I got off on this God versus creator when I was trying to stick with that nature is creator's way of showing us that we're loved and that we're always loved, even if there's 2 foot of snow. Because, you know, uh, you got to be that way to live where there's 2 foot of snow. My relatives, brothers and sisters, most of them live in Ohio. My sister Lynn and I are smart enough to live down here in the South. Okay. Uh, we're smart enough not to want to go in the snow where the snow goes. Don't eat that yellow snow. Don't you go where the Huskies go. Don't you eat no yellow snow. Frank Zappa. Um, aka nice 16 more days and I will be in Branson. Oh, I wished I could. Yeah, I can't move around. I can't go. Situations occurred. I couldn't walk if I had a ride. A yurt with a waterfall in the middle. You know what, Mark? That sounds really good until mold starts growing on the inside of your yurt because there's too much humidity. Oh, it looks cool. Yeah. Oh, it's great. Yeah. And then there's mold, and then there's this, and then there's. You hadn't thought about that, you know. Frank Lloyd Wright, when he built that house over the waterfall, hey, dead end, the creator is not all loving. Okay. Well, creator, for example, created mankind. But the creator, I don't believe, started wars. He created man, but then man decided to do what he wanted. Creator gave us free will, and that is what gave us problems, you know. Yeah, you would need to stop raining on Mark's yurt. Oh, I had a friend of mine, she's passed away now. Oh, that's all she wanted to do was live in a yurt. And I'm like, you live in a semi, the house isn't greatly insulated, but sort of. And you want to live in a yurt with the walls that are as thick as canvas. Oh yeah, I'll be warm in the wintertime. I'll have a fireplace in it. You're gonna be in a canvas covered umbrella. That's what a yurt is. It's an umbrella with sides. Um, and the thickness of the walls is like yay. So it's going to be hotter than hell in the summertime, and going to be colder than snot in the wintertime. And you want to live in a yurt as a permanent? You're crazy. You're nuts. Oh, I live in it. Why? Because it's cool. Well, then buy yourself a tent from Walmart's and go live in that. Oh no, but a tent from Walmart. It's just a can. It's just a tent. It's a yurt is nothing but a tent. Oh Lord, have mercy. Oh, but a yurt is cool. Oh, go stay in one for a weekend. Do not buy a house that is a yurt. You know. I've always wanted an A-frame, but I hear they're not good for temperature. Um, it depends on how you insulate them, Johan. Honestly, you're absolutely right, Scotty. I agree with that because I've built some of them too. And I had a friend of mine that lived in an A-frame, and there was a lot of it was really cool and all that, but there was a lot of stuff that was wrong with it. Like the upstairs is really cramped. You don't have really any walls. Because of the sides and so forth. So yeah, the creator is the worst planner in all of the cosmos. Okay. He created perfection in and gave a clause of free will, which we were guaranteed to screw up. Yeah, but it ain't the you're talking about the creator is the worst. God in the Bible gave us free will. So don't blame it on the creator, blame it on God. If you're going to keep this straight, dead end, God did the same thing. Yeah, don't worry about snow load. Johan, the best thing I can say is there are no walls. If you can put up with walls that go sideways, or there's just, it's very difficult to hang a shelf from an A-frame wall. But and you can't put anything up against the roof, the ceiling. It's just very difficult from an interior point of view. Now, if your feng shui is very minimal and you don't have anything really to like put in your house, then an A-frame might be for you. But I did my upstairs with vaulted ceilings up here, and I found out really quick that I made a mistake. I was like, I got no wall. I have, there is no wall. It's just ceiling. And the closer you get to the wall, you bump your head. So there's a lot of that. Of course, I differentiate between God and Creator. I've talked about this for years, dead end. The Creator made God. Okay, that'll tick you off right there. There's a good one. The Creator created gods and goddesses. The great Creator is just the source of all, right? But there are gods and goddesses that were made by the Creator. And to me, that makes perfectly logical sense. But other people, yeah, it was all about his father. But also, the father is a sins of the father. It's always the father, not the grandfather or the grandparents. Now, if you move into the native traditions, it is always about the grandparents. It is about my grandfather or grandmother or the elders from before, where Jesus says, I'm going to sit by the right hand of my father, of the father. So, in that relationship, now remember, these are men who wrote the Bible, okay? That, talking about, well, he ain't sitting with his grandfather, but if you read in Revelations, especially, you're going to go up and sit with the Father, with God the Father, and some of his cronies, with some of these elders. So you're going to sit up there with God. You can go up there and sit with Jesus and the Father, but also some of the elders. Now, I found that very fascinating years ago, and it was like, who are these other folks that God's sitting with? You know, because with the folks, the native, and I don't mean just Native Americans, but native traditions, when they think about the Creator, it's the creator of all things. So oh, I got sidetracked there for a second. Sorry, I lost my train of thought. Um, so different worlds, different places can have their own gods and goddesses, is my 10 cents worth on it. Oh, heard Jesus talking about his grandfather. Right. Well, and native folks, they always talk about the elders, and they always talk about, our grandmother, grandfather, our grandmothers and grandfathers, plural, in that those who came before us, who learned how to do things and passed them down through the ages. So, but in the Bible, it doesn't talk about grandmothers and fathers necessarily. And but Jesus is trying to convince these folks, you're going to sit with my father. He didn't want to go into a bunch of lineage, but in the Bible, it absolutely says it in Revelations, where you're going to go sit with the father and the elders and the old ones, or it depends on which one. Um, that it's the ancient ones, it's the elders, it's they're the the term sitting with God the Father and whoever else he's sitting with up yonder, or out there, or wherever. Um, so the Creator created God. Who created the Son? Well, how does sons get created? But anyway, never heard anyone. Well, yeah, they're dead end. You just haven't heard of enough people, I guess, that who have talked about the Creator made God. But grandmother Moon. So, but anyway, nature is the love of the Creator given to us all. So, if it ever, anytime you ever feel that nobody loves me, everybody hates me, I'm going to go eat some worms. That those worms were provided by the Creator. But to just look at the trees, even in wintertime, the trees are taking a nap, so that they can wake up in the spring and provide us shade. Well, up in where Robert lives, they don't have to worry about trees, but Lord have mercy, I just couldn't live up there without no trees in sight. It would just make me bonkers. There are big fields with no trees, and it's like, yeah, but there's a tree off in the distance. But anyway, so, and here's the thing, uh, creator isn't a who, all right? Everybody wants to give an entity. Well, it's got to be a singular point entity to believe in something. Really? Yep. Well, the universe was made by committee, a committee of beings, you know. Good night, Steve. Y'all take care. Be safe. You too. And sleep well, Steve. Um, so our ancestors, in my opinion, is what should be important to those people, personages, beings, whatever. Woo! That one caught me off guard. I just realized my dog's outside. Y'all hang in there a minute. Let me go let Duggar in. Let me go hobble to the back door. I'll be right back. Hey, buddy. I found out it's easier to let Duggar out in the evening time. Um, Whatever is out there, whether it's a kitty cat or a possum or whatever, it's better for, because when he leaps off of the couch across the room in that woo 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 woo, uh, yeah, you're right, Scotty boy. As far as the good and evil thing, so sort of with that, creator just made stuff. But when humans came around, their evil came with humans. And I do not believe that the evil was put in men's hearts. Now, there are some people that I believe they do have evil in their hearts when they're born. They're just mean, nasty people. And they don't seem to change when they get older. I mean, they hurt things, break things. They're just, um, you know. So I do think that there are some people that are born with evil in their hearts, but I don't think that evil was put here I think it was created. Because people say, well, look at animals. Well, yeah, but a tiger's got to eat, so it doesn't necessarily eat other tigers. But it'll eat anything that's smaller than itself, that they can catch, and munch on. So T Rex. I still don't understand why T Rex was given such tiny little hands, and little tiny arms. I think somebody got that one mixed up in the box. But anyway, and where the hell did a platypus come from? God had extra parts sitting in a box somewhere. But anyway, so you know, and there's a song about the platypus and extra parts. And anyway, but what the hell is a platypus? You say, well, look one up. Um, but to the idea of the good and evil thing, because um, you know, dogs are carnivores and cats, and but somehow that's an evil thing. If they kill a bird or something, oh, that cat, oh, it's an evil cat, it killed a bird. No, it's, that's nature. So I think there's some things in nature which people would refer to as being cruel, or that somehow you watch a lion chase down a gazelle on TV, and ooh, that's somehow mean or evil. No, there ain't evil about it. It's about how things survive. And then that's not evil. Well, that's part of the creation. So men and women's were put on this planet, and but I don't think that necessarily we started off that way as quote being evils towards one another. I think man found it a lot more advantageous to live together and to live in more harmony, because if you get pissed off at Joe and break his skull, Joe ain't going to be with you to go on the hunt on Friday, you know. And hey, attached, how are you? So one of the things about creator, about the source, uh, about the great spirit, and in the Bible, there has to be a single point entity. There is a God. There is a creator. A single entity did this to us. Okay. All right. A single, and just stop and think about that. A single entity, deity. All right. Really? Now, the universe is so vast and wide and so forth. Um, do I think that there were gods and goddesses put in charge over like this solar system, for example? And like, okay, you're in charge of this group of planets and so forth. And, I would absolutely go with that. Just as like in the, in the uh, Spider Woman stories, that there are giant spiders in the universe that connect the planets together and the different universes together. And they have found, these quote invisible lines that are only show up with certain spectrums that show this network of spider like web type things that connects the universe. So, what's to say there aren't some kind of creatures that tend to these ley lines in space that connect all of us together? And you go, wait a minute, well, if you understood how many spiders there were on this planet, you know, how many spider webs, you'd go, well, so I can kind of extrapolate that the universe is connected by all these lines of energy. So why can't there be some type of entity that tends to these lines? Well, I don't know. That seems far fetched. Okay, so maybe it does. But does that mean that well, they didn't see these lines that attached us together before. But native peoples believed that all of these things were uh, connected together through the great Spider Woman stories, Spider Man, Spider Woman stories, and that the universe is connected with these lines that look like spider webs. Ooh, so were the native folks wrong? Well, in reading the one card tonight, reading about Wolf, that the Dogon tribe and many other different tribes believed that the ancestors of these tribes came from the dog star in the Sirius constellation. And there were many native uh not just Americans but around that their ancestors came from the stars, and they came from this set of stars, the Pleiades. And then there is uh I can't think of the other one now. There's another constellation, but I don't believe a word of this. What do I believe is that we humans are only here by default. Okay, the spider has the most advanced, they have to be the rulers. I don't know about the rulers, but when you look close to the ground, there was I did a video a couple of years ago about spiders and webs and things and stuff. And there were, I can't remember the university, but they took like a 3 foot square, a 1 yard square, and as a study, and they mapped it out, and they had research students as a project for college, and they studied the insects within this 3 foot square area. And it was in the same field or whatever it was, and they found out that there were like 30 different types of species of spiders or something. It might not have been 30, but I was astounded by how many they found within each one of these 3 foot square um, 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 test areas. And that I've been back in the woods, and when one year when we burned, after we burnt, we came back from the river. It was late at night, and all you could see were these tiny little beady little eyes looking at you from the darkness. And it was all these spiders, tiny little spiders. Now they weren't this big, but they were all over the ground. And you'd think that the fire would have burned them out, but they just went down into the ground or hid or whatever. But all you could see when you showed your flashlight back across in the backpack here were all these tiny little eyes. And they were thousands, not hundreds, but thousands of tiny little spiders. So, there is a webwork of spiders everywhere. In fact, one was on my arm earlier. I had to kill it because he got into my space. But, there's not too many places where there aren't spiders. I'm not sure about the desert, but here in the east, at least, but spiders are everywhere. But anyway, I don't believe we're humans. What? Psychic spiders? Yeah. I think they're interdimensional spiders. And a few years ago, there were some folks who worked on some high tension electrical voltage type things where they were finding these spiders clinging to these high voltage terminals and stuff, and 5G stuff, and just weird things they were finding out. Oh, yeah, cobwebs are, yeah, they can be really fine. Or the cobwebs are inside of something and the spider lives on the edge of something. So, like the cone spider and a couple of them, they build a cave, and that there's just a little bit of web on the outside, and something stops by and lands on it, and then the spider comes out and grabs it. And there's that too. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I've got a rule. I am terrified of spiders, and they all know it. I warn them, you get in my area, and this one would landed on my arm. I'm sorry. I killed him before I knew it was a spider. Okay. It was like, you're dead. Um, Hawkeye, how do you deal with all that long hair in the humid state of Georgia? In the summer times, it's hard as hell. I keep it up, and off my neck, I've got it's got a thingy in it now. My hair really needs brushed right now. But it's got to be in a ponytail. I can't. Pigtails sometimes, but I'll keep it up, under my hat if I'm outside a lot. But it's difficult in the summertime. As long as it is now, it's difficult in the wintertime. It's get to be just damn difficult. A personal war with gophers. Oh my God. And gophers, moles, and them other little critters that oh my God, talking about an argument. Oh, and I got mices in the houses, meese and heese. And one just come, I heard this racket over here behind me earlier, and I got up and looked around, and I've got a plastic bag that's laying down there, and I heard all this ruckus, and I was like, "What's in the house?" And I turned around and looked. Here's this mouse about yay long, and he's playing on top of the plastic and running around, and it's like, what? I thought it was, and he looked at me, and I looked at him, and he turned tail and ran. And I'm like, yesterday I was looking in there and just minding my own business, and I seen something move, and I looked a little closer, and I was like, son of a bitch, it's a mouse over there in the window. And this was in the afternoon. Now, this wasn't late at night or whatever. And I walked over there, and somebody had gave me this little ceramic Santa Claus, right? And then they gave me some paints that weren't made for it. And I painted it up anyway. And here is I go walk over there. Now, the mouse ain't scared of me squat. I'm walking over there. He's eating the paint off of this ceramic Santa Claus. And I'm like, what the hell? And I'm like, I had to like, poke at him. So, but anyway, I went to go get some flour out of my cupboard the other day, and the mouse is eating like a chunk of flour, tore a great big hole in. It's been crawling in there and eating the flour out of this bag. So there's been several things that I've pulled out of my cupboards that he's eaten holes. I say it's a he, eaten holes in and crawled right on into the damn box and munched on whatever was in there. So me and this mouse have got to have an attitude adjustment. And I've tried different types of traps. And there's a guy on the internet, like Sean or something, and he shoots rats and kills mice and has all different kinds of traps. And I'm going to try one with a 5 gallon bucket. I'm going to try one where it's a stick over a 5 gallon bucket. That's it. It's a stick over five. And you put a bait somewhere around, some stinky cheese or peanut butter or something, and they get on whatever it is, and then they fall over and into the bucket and they can't get out. So, because I've tried several different types of traps and they just haven't worked. Maybe feed them, even the spider that landed in my hair outside the store. I'm sorry, they're just, yeah. And also, when I was a kid, grew up in Florida, and they have these granddaddy long legs that are as big as your hand or bigger. Okay, and it ain't like these other kind that we have around here, tiny little bodies and great big legs. Those things won't bother you. These things had large bodies and long legs, and and there was one inside our house, one inside our bedroom to be exact, because they'd flip on the light at night to check to see if us boys was asleep. And oh, Harney, look, there's a spider over David's bed. Kill it. So here I am trying to go to sleep, and now there's this huge spider over David's bed, which is kind of short area to be over my bed. And now I'm awake. I'm out of the bed. They don't ever kill this spider. You hear me? And then they say, well, it's gone now. Go to sleep. What? Like hell? You want me to go to sleep now that you didn't kill this huge spider that's next to my bed? And that's one reason why I've had insomnia for years. But me and spiders have never got along. But I swore years ago that I was going to get over my phobia. But and walking in the woods at night, there are um, always carry a stick in front of you, nighttime or otherwise, because you'll run into a spider web across the trail. It never fails, right? And you're doing this number, and where's the spider at? And oh, how big was the spider? What kind was the spider? We have big banana spiders down here, which you don't mess with them, and you try not to mess with their webs. But, you know, you always keep a stick in front of you, a walking stick that's taller than you, is as tall as you are, so that the stick will run into the spider web before your face does. But creator made spiders of all different kinds and sizes, and some of them are damn sure enough poison, and most of them ain't poison enough to us humans, unless you were allergic to their venom or something, and they got to really pinch you, just right. But a black widow spider can hurt you and will if you let it, and they will hang underneath things. So anytime you flip something over, look before you reach, and if you can wear gloves, do so. But always look, always be careful of, you're flipping something over in the yard, and it could be a chair. Okay, that I've had some chairs that were out here in the yard a couple of years ago, and don't know where the black widow spider come from, because they got to come from somewhere to make babies to have them. But anyway, hadn't seen a black widow spider around here in years, and lifted this chair over to dump the leaves out, and there were two of them hanging up underneath this chair. And I've just like freaked out. I was like, I ain't gonna put up with spiders, but black widow spiders, And there have been some people that point at certain spiders and call them black widow spiders, but they ain't black widow, but they look like them. But they're not black. They're sort of a grayish, and they got their hind end looks similar to that of the black widow, but it does not have the hourglass on its belly. It just, oh, that's a black widow. No, it ain't. That one is. No, it ain't. Well, when you don't have a black widow to show them, they still are convinced that these are black widows. They're similar, but not. But anyway, I just tell them to stay away from me, and I'll leave them alone. It's obvious you've never watched Charlotte's Web. I did a long time ago, Scotty boy, or were you talking to somebody else? I stopped eating meat and hunting, and the deer got more friendly. Yep, that is true. Yeah, it's coming up on another 20. Yeah, I would agree with that, attached. Or a brown recluse. Everything's a brown recluse. No, there are wolf spiders that, they're gross looking and so forth, but they're not a recluse. Yeah, they're very shiny. That's true. They're very shiny. And you cannot miss that bright hourglass on their undersides that kind of stick out towards their back end too. But um, and they really like under things. They build a web so that things fall into the web. So the spiders, so if they're close to the ground, they'll build a web up here, and then they'll sit down here at the bottom and wait. They're blind. Flies are still my favorite though. To eat or to watch, and I haven't got there yet with flies. Oh, and oh my God, they're flies, eh, gnats, oh hell, and skeeters. And roaches are down the list because, they're around, but I don't like them. Spiders, I don't like them, but they need to stay in their place. Uh, if there's a roach in the house, I'll jump to go kill it. I don't like to hear them pop, but at least they're dead. It was on the back end, now on the belly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, and a friend of mine was bit by. They weren't quite sure if it was a black widow, but they think it was more of like a brown recluse. He was in a wheelchair, and if he's not dead, he's still in a wheelchair. But he was paralyzed from his waist down, and he was out riding around in a four-wheeler kind of thingy. And since he didn't have any feeling, it fell down his back while going through the woods, is what they surmise, and it bit him close to his buttocks. And what it did was since he had bathed himself and everything, and it was in his lower back, and he didn't have any feeling down there much anyway, he did not know that this thing had gotten like this big around had turned into this open wound within like less than a week, and that it literally rotted the skin out around the wound, and just it damn near killed him. And so, because he didn't know what had happened, but then the poison started spreading to his other organs, and he was sick. And somebody said, the infection had gotten up his back to where he could feel it. And when they lifted up his shirt, they went, "Oh my God," and took him to the emergency room immediately. And somebody there recognized that it was a spider bite gone wrong, and started treating him. But he had been, they said it would. The best he could recall was that somebody had checked him, rubbed his back, had done something, and on like a Saturday, Sunday, and he was okay. But by that next weekend, he was in the hospital, and they were, high doses of um, antibiotic and other stuff, but he got out of it because I heard him after, and he showed me his back and everything. But I was like, holy crap, man. But anyway, so stuff will get you if you're not careful. But now, is it the creator's fault that the spider fell down his back and bit him? You know, is it the a friend of mine, his grandfather, the property he lives on now, not too far from here, was about my age. I think he said he was in his early 70s. Was had heard a commotion out in the chicken pen and went outside to check it. And he'd made this trip 1,000 times in his lifetime. And there just happened to be a rattlesnake on the trail that evening that he did not see, and it bit him. And by the time he could get to the hospital, which that was many moons ago, and many of the roads around here weren't paved back then, and by the time he got to the hospital, he was dead from a rattlesnake bite. Now, I haven't seen a rattlesnake in years, but that's beside the point. He didn't think that going out to check the chickens, what was in the hen house, he was going to step on a rattlesnake and it bite him and kill him. So, but was it the creator's fault for making a rattlesnake? Was the rattlesnake made, for, um, uh, 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 so did God create, I mean, did the creator create the the rattlesnake to just kill people? Well, if you're out in the desert and there's a lot of signwinders, there's not a lot of people out there. Okay. So one could say, well, but the snake's got it, he's in his own realm. And any people that are living in the desert around sidewinders or rattlesnakes, it's their own damn fault that they move out there and be around them. I'm sorry. Or either that or learn how to be careful and not step on one, know where their habitat is, don't put your hands on rocks and stuff. Be aware of your of surroundings. So, but is because there are rattlesnakes, does that mean that the creator hates us? You know? Oh, well, I don't know. The creator made all these venomous snakes, and yeah, but they're usually in the jungles and places and stuff. And, you know, um, black widow spiders don't crawl around in your house, they live under things. Now, they might get in your house and live under a chair or under a table. Um, but they're not like other I've had a snake that was in the house about 2 weeks ago now, and it was just a little baby oak snake, but that was about 4 feet long at least. That went through the hole down there in the bottom of my bathroom in the back, but it had come into corral for mice. And I wish that snake was around now because the mice is running around here like, Grand Central Station. And I'd rather have the snake than the mice, because the snake don't eat my flour. you know, the snake eats the mice. So come on in, snake. Where the hell are you? But so, um, diseases and things that happen because of rat poop and stuff like that. Did the creator make those things, or did those things develop because of the rat? But did the creator make, these, the Hong Kong flu? You know, so but the God of the Bible created these things to tempt man and to kill man and to keep man in check. But at least that's what the Bible says. And that we got to have 10 commandments, not one, because one won't do it. Um so to do no harm, follow that through all the way through, right down to the rights. And I can't live by it because I eat pork. I've had some chicken the other day. That means that somehow I was involved with the death of an animal. So because I ate it, therefore, so I've kind of sort of broke the law. One, I didn't necessarily kill it myself, but one could argue that chickens, they're here for mankind to eat because we are carnivorous. Um, but I didn't go out and butcher a bunch of animals last week. I couldn't get out of my chair. No, I'm kidding. But so um, did to do any harm? Well, did it do me any harm to go buy the chicken? Well, but the chicken was killed on my behalf so that I could buy it. Well, then that sort of makes me a guilty party in this. But if you look at it from a Native American type of point of view, in that these animals, certain animals, were put here to feed us. That's the reason they're here, is for man to eat. Where would leather shoes be and different things and stuff, and if it weren't for cows, and different other animals too, that when they skin them, they use their hides for different things. So, and the hooves of things make glue and jello and different types of things. And it's like, listen here. So animals provide a lot of stuff, glue, they, the old thing, we're going to send that old mule, to the glue factory. I loved it. I lived my whole life there, except for, oh, it is a 20, ain't it? I'll do it again. Lived in so I know there are a lot of people that would disagree with me about the creator versus God, but sticking with the fact that whether you believe that or not, understand that anytime you don't feel loved, just look out the window, if you got a window to look out of, and say, whether it's God or the creator, however you want to look at it, nature is the universe, is the universe's way of saying I love you. You know, look at the trees. I walked up the driveway tonight to go get the mail, which was not there, and looked at the different plants along the way, and looked at the different types of uh, in the field out there. There's grass and there's different types of plants that are coming up, like dandelions and this plant and that plant, and tiny little plants that are only this tall with flowers on them that I don't know what they are, but they're beautiful this time of year, and they bloom for a certain time and then they're gone. And there are other types of grasses that have little flowers on them and things and stuff. And it's spring going into summer. And that there are different seasons for each of these. And so walking across the field, I can see in a patch of a 10 by 10, there are, you know, 5 or 6 or 7 different kinds of plants in that area. And maybe actually more if when you look closer to the ground. So it's just amazing what's in a small plot of land just here, and pick another place. I can stop along the side of the road and pick a square land, and there'll be all kinds of different stuff in there, that might be similar or different to what's in my yard, or along the side of the road up there. So, but there are similar things. But anyway, but the native believed that the Creator gave all of these plants to us for our benefit, whether to eat or medicinal, or maybe it's to feed other critters so we can eat the critters. So the rabbits love to eat these things, but nothing else does. So the rabbit eats them, and then we eat the rabbit. So, Creator gave the plants to the rabbits so we could have you know what I mean. So, but it's all goes in a full circle somehow. But all things are beautiful. I mean, even after a snowstorm and the sun's coming up, and people, it's the winter wonderland. Well, yeah, but you might not see, 10 homeless people that froze to death underneath the snow, but it's a winter wonderland. Oh, the snow's so horrible, but is it? You know, the snow melts and creates water, and that's good for and the cold, the trees and the bushes and things have to have so many hours of cold. Like some of the things that we did not have this year did not have enough cold weather, where last year we had a cold freeze late for us. We didn't have enough cold weather this year. It just stayed balmy since January. It's been very pleasant, don't get me wrong. But today it was 82 or something degrees, but it was still 82 something degrees at like 8 o'clock tonight when the sun was down. So, and the humidity was up, but it's been a nice spring, all things considered. It hadn't been too hot, hadn't been too cold. We've had a amount of rain. Um, but where a couple of years ago, it quit raining in February and we didn't get rain until November. So this year we've already had some rain, uh, and it brought the river back up. It helped bring the well up. Um, So all in all, but did God choose for us to not be in a drought? Was Creator involved in the fact that we had rain last week, a lot of it, but none since? Or is it man? Is the evil that men do live after them? So let it be with Caesar, from Mark Antony and from the Shakespeare. But so, Cain and Abel, So the two were born from Adam and Eve, supposedly, right? Both brothers from the first couple, and you'd think that they would have been raised correctly, and then Cain killed Abel. Why? Because he was jealous. So there is jealousy, and evil was born then, if you want, because you got something that I want. Now give it to me, and you don't ask the other person, hey, will you share it? And the other person doesn't say, hey, you want some? Well, this is my piece of chicken. Was it's my pie, as Cartman would say. Um, but so in the sharing so it's the good nature of what's in your heart. Maybe we are born with good and evil. So Cain was born with evil in his heart. And even though he was the firstborn, I think. So he was the firstborn, and because Adam was pissed off at Eve for, munched on that apple, off of that tree that they were supposed to eat off of, supposedly. And that, and it was the snake's fault, always. Uh, but that so because they were pissed off when they got tossed out of the Garden of Paradise. That's why Cain turned out so bad, because of all the heartaches they were having. So Cain heard all that shit while he was in the womb there, and turned out to be an evil son bitch, right? And killed his brother and all. So, okay, if that's where you want to go, but evil in and of itself, when babies are born, if they're nourished correctly, they're not really evil. If you just give them a chance to live and grow up, they're not really evil. So if a baby's trying to kill the cat or something, you go over it and go, no, 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 that's wrong. I'm sorry, but we don't kill the cat. Um, but back in the day, they might have said, well, then why do we kill buffalo? Because we eat the buffalo, but we don't necessarily eat cats. Now the Chinese or the Koreans might, but we don't. But I got enough cats here in the neighborhood that if I get hungry enough, well, pop off a couple. You know what I mean? Because they're well fed. uh, um, say, well, we want to. Took me a while to learn that. Save what? What if some guy calls my ma'am an hour? Oh, well, is she? Well, then don't sweat others' ignorance. Patrick Swayze Roadhouse. I love that philosophy. Oh, well, now I've always tried to respect women, and I've got such disrespect from most of the women, at least that I've married, and, in that respect. When I really thought I was trying, I know I tried harder than a lot of other men tried with their relationships, but later on in life, an older feller than me looked at me and he goes, Dave, he goes, all women are whores, and I was like, nah, whoa, 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 and he goes, well, let me rephrase that. He said, every woman is a prostitute, and I went, okay, now what do you mean by that, there, George? And George says, well, he says, well, George says, well, they gussy themselves up. He talked like that. He said they gussy themselves up to get our attention, and they put rouge on and lipstick, and they put things in their brassieres, and to make sure that they look good, and they put perfumes on, and he said, and they take a bath more than once or twice a week, and they do their hair up, and he said, and they talk real sweet, and they make you biscuits, and he said, and they talk real sweet, and he said, and then they marry you. and they quit making biscuits. They don't do the hair up, and makeup is, only one that wants something. And he said, and that's just it. He said they'll look like a prostitute and act like one if they want something. Oh, honey, will you buy me this new dress? Oh, honey, will you buy me a new car? Oh, honey, will you buy me a new house? He said, they'll gussy themselves up. And what do they want that? He said, you don't never do that if you want something from your old lady. He said, when's the last time that you shaved and put on clean underwear just because you said, honey, I want you to cook me a good breakfast. I've got clean underwear on and I've got perfume on it's only Thursday and I done took another bath. Now, and the wives goes, honey, make your own damn breakfast. Or get your own damn supper. Or, cook it your damn, put something in the microwave. So it's like, so, but all women are prostitutes because they will try to ploy you with their female type talents in order to get something from you, the man. And I was like, now, but, well, what about, well, wait a minute. And by the time I got done with trying to tell him he was wrong, I couldn't. And I went, well, George, I would agree that 95% of what you said is probably true. Because the women I've been around, they've always tried to do the womanly ploy thing with whatever they wanted, and they will close it off whenever they don't get what they want. Well, I'm sorry, I've got a headache. For the last 6 months? Yes, sir, honey. For the last 6 months, I got a headache. And if you want sex, you better do it your damn self, because it ain't going to be with me. And if I catch you cheating, I'll kill you. Okay. So, but then you find out they was doing it with somebody else for the last 6 months. Is reason you ain't got none, but but see, then there's that prostitute part of it. Because it's like they're giving it to somebody else, but they ain't selling it to you. Man, you married to him. So, but is every woman a whore? I don't believe that. There are some women who claim they're not, but that's another story. But is every woman a prostitute? Well, if they're using their womanly wiles to get what they want to finagle out of the men folk kind of thing, well, you got to ask the question. Well, there might not be sex involved there, but you're prostituting your womanly ways in order to get what you want out of the deal. Mm, he wasn't entirely wrong. you know, and every woman deserves a chance. And there are some good women out there. This is not against women, but it is about behavior, you know. And there are some women, when I try to go back into the dating thing, well, how much, the first thing they say, well, how much money do you make a month now that you're retired? Well, I'm sorry, but well, I make about 1,000. Oh, I'm sorry, I make that a week. What? You make 1,000 a week, and I'm living off of that a month. Well, then we're not in the same category here. Then no, you don't want me for a partner because my dates are going to be simple and cheap. And no, we're not going to be gone for 3 months overseas on a cruise. Not unless somebody, you know, dies and leaves me a lot of money, but ain't nobody living that's gonna die and leave me nothing. So, but anyway, but um, Men don't prostitute themselves the same way that women do, as far as using their womanly ways. But I'm moving on from that subject. But anyway, but as far as nature, there are some things in nature that are unkind. I go down in the swamps and there are alligators that live down there. And so I can paddle and canoe and fish and do all that, but there are alligators that live in the swamp. Now, okay, Creator put them in the swamp, all right? God did. Dropped off a few of them here and there, put a few lizards left over from the caveman days. And down in Florida, there'd be more populated, I think. Um, but we got them up here too. Not near as numerous, but we got them. And so, just because there's an alligator in the river doesn't mean that you can't go to the river. What it means is that you know that there are alligators there and you are careful when you go to the river and you don't piss off an 8-foot gator when you're in a 10-foot kayak. But you don't piss them off anyway, but you don't go poking them or whatever, you know. And hey, Katniss, how you doing? What nerve did you hit? Was that a tumbleweed? As the women become silent. Yeah, I don't mean, but no, but I mean, they have you have to be honest with yourself. And I have spoke this with some other women, and there are some women who are just upright and everything, and take care of themselves and buy what they need and to contribute. But 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 when they start going, honey, they're using them womanly ways. Honey, da da da, and you know or I got a headache for 2 months, if that ain't using, that against them. So, but with the idea though that, um, but it depends on the people. It depends on the persons involved. But if women think that they don't do that, when they'll bat their eyes at an officer to get them off of a ticket, when they don't think that that ain't prostituting their wares, batting their eyes and oh please, honey, and then everything's, come on now, just be careful with that. And don't say no before you be honest with yourself. That's the other side of that coin. But anyway, but I still, women are still, not that I have any on my list per se, but you ladies here in the chat, are my ladies that I know of, and you're respectful people that I know of. So, you're out of that 5 or 10% right off the bat, or don't even come into the category. Um, but there are those women who claim that they ain't when they are because of how they use their womanly ways. But anyway, but so the creator created venomous spiders. But if you're careful, most people won't ever get bit by one in their lifetime. Um, are there lions and tigers and bears? Yes. But most people around here won't get bitten or eaten by a lion or a tiger, maybe a bear, but it's much less likely. Um, there are a lot of other things that are probably going to kill you first, like other people, you know. In Moultrie last week, um, there was a guy who killed his mother, went next door and killed the grandmother or something, then drove to the McDonald's and shot the assistant manager girlfriend, and then went home and killed himself. So that was in Moultrie last week. So it seems like, quote, mass murders because was that a mass murder or was that a murder suicide, whatever? But that just happened. So, what evil got into this person's mind to go do these things, you know? Good cards tonight, thinking about it still. Yeah. Yeah, they were three good cards. It was Wolf was first, which is the teacher. And then next was the hummingbird, which is joy. And the third card was rabbit, which is fear. But they were all heads up. Feminine wiles, yeah. If you'd known the women know, then you'd go, "Oh, sorry, Dave," but yeah. And boy, could I pick them. But anyway, so off that subject and back onto the, but so whoever created the earth and all the things on it, one could say, oh, they did a crappy job, or God, this or that, or the creator, or whoever, all right. But it is what it is, you know. And if you learn to live with what's on the earth, so you don't live in California because you might, especially, you don't live on an earthquake fault line, but you can go visit anytime you want. Or maybe you got a cottage there that you just rent, You might not take up residency there, just as an example. Or, when Alaska thaws out in the summertime, you go visit Alaska then. It's still cold, mind you, but, there's not going to be snow on the ground 24/7. So, but if you like hiking and skiing in the wintertime, then you might like Alaska in the wintertime, with all that snow and so forth. So it depends on what your likes and dislikes are. But for most people, no, you can't live up in the snow all the time. No, it's very difficult. Even the folks that live up there have to depend on things from the lower 48, even Pinokes, folks in the Canuck land up there, our friends to the north there. Um, but, and folks that live around the equator, it's hot all the time. They need ice, you know. So back in the day, there were stories of how they would go and get icebergs and bring them south and chop the icebergs up and then sell it to that's where the term ice box came from. You literally put block ice in the ice box, and it kept your stuff cold. It never did freeze anything. Freezers didn't come along until later, but the home ice box for stuff, um, you know, because folks canned and things back in them days. I mean, even meats they canned, so they didn't need freezers for things. And if you needed ice cubes for your lemonade, then you chipped it up with an ice pick and put it in a glass or a jug or whatever, and you had iced lemonade. But it was because of the ice, big cubes, blocks of ice that were a lot of times, I did some research on this a couple of years ago because I have a pair of ice tongs for picking up big ice cubes, right? And I was like, I wonder how much I can get for these, and wonder where they came from. And I did a little research, and the side trail was where did why did they need them big ice cubes? Why did they need why did they need them tongs for the big ice cubes? And so I was like, well, where did the ice come from? And where did they get ice back in the 1800s and further back? Well, there were people that were literally going up to the Arctic, since it was closer than the Antarctic, and getting and towing um, icebergs south, and then hiring crews that went out there and literally cut these suckers up. And so there were ships that went to the north and cut up ice and put it in ships and brought it south. And I thought, well, that ice, won't it melt? I want to do this thing. Well, it's an amazing thing what ice does when it's around other ice, and it's helped to keep it cold. So they did certain things like cover it up with tarps and other stuff, but it was amazing how much did not melt by the time it actually got to somebody's house, because it went by boat, train, or whatever. A lot of trains, it was easy because you could get it there overnight sometimes. So they had refrigerated cars for the big ice cubes. So they had these great big tongs that moved the ice. The guys were there. Picture of these guys moving ice from one place to another, and that even back in the days of the horse and buggy. So then they had ice houses that were designed and built to store the ice that came in on a train or a truck or whatever. And even by horse and buggy, I found out that they would just cover up the ice. And of course, it would melt along the way, but you could still get ice. Well, where did it come from? I was amazed it came off of ships, and and sometimes it came down. They cut up ice from frozen rivers and stuff from up north, and it came down. I was amazed at where the ice came from, and that it literally became. It was a huge business back in the day. So, but bagged ice for coolers and stuff is still a big business. There's still a lot of ice that's still sold these days. So, but anyway, it's amazing how one thing will kind of, well, so Creator gave us the North Pole, and man decided to bring it to the South for lemonade and mint julep. you know, Creator didn't give us the trains to bring these things north and south and east and west, but He gave man the creativity and the tools with which to make these things. Of course, man had to make some tools to make some stuff like, railroad cars and wheels. And I'm thinking about, pouring steel and all that kind of stuff. And Poland has no ice today. Really? Remember, car ACs were a box that hung on the window that should have blocked a bite. Yeah, if you want cards here, just ask. He would probably do it for one of you. No, not tonight. No, it's too late. Um, had you asked earlier, maybe. Yeah, we had cars that had wings, and that you could turn those wings inwards. So, you turned them two puppies inwards, driving down the road. Hoo-wee! And my old 51 had a vent that literally popped up from the front of the hood. Actually, it was up, I mean, actually at the back of the hood, up at the firewall. And it literally was a handle that you pushed down and popped open the vent, which was about this long, and popped up at the back of the hood near the windshield, and fresh air came in that way. There was none of this come in through the under the hood and through some vent or something. Nah, air came over the hood and in through the vent and down down underneath. And if there was any dirt or anything on the floor, that should have been flying up all over in your eyes. But it was quick. You wanted the vent, boom, whoosh, and open them two this away. Yeah, buddy. The triangle windows, yep. And margaritas with blenders, yeah. You know, Was it still a margarita if the ice isn't crushed? I'm just wondering. Yeah, 255. Yep. But a lot of some of the older cars, I had a was it it might what was it? I think it was the old Studebakers had them, but there were some of the cars had vents off the side, and there's one on either side. I can't remember. There was what other car might have had them like that. I think it was a Rambler. It was an 50s model Rambler that had air ducts that popped out from the side because they found out that air coming over the hood was heated because of the heat from the engine, and it wasn't really cool air. But if you brought the air in from the sides around the fenders and into the vehicle, it wasn't preheated from the engine and the hood. Made sense. Didn't catch on, but it made sense. And nowadays, the intake for your vents are up at the front around your radiator, but it's still around the engine, and it still picks up air, from around the engine. I want to say it was the Studebaker. Dodges? Did the Dodges have the side ones? And it might have been the trucks. But anyway, all right. Well, listen, my dear friends, I have a doctor's appointment tomorrow to check with my kidneys and so forth, and um, and something else tomorrow. Oh, maybe a visit from my physical therapist, uh, which I thought I was done with. But anyway, they want to come by and check on me. So, and it might be to say we're done with you, which is okay. They have helped me out. But this topic is veered. Yeah, no big deal. It's just a 3 month checkup or whatever it was with my kidneys. I'm kind of wondering why I'm actually going, but it's been 3 months and I'll go in for my checkup and we'll see. So, uh, but I'm not picking on women. I'm really not. I still give women the benefit of the doubt, which has got me in a lot of trouble. Hey, Katniss, thumbs up to you too. Um, but this thing about love is all around us, and I just look outside, and depending on the season, love's a little bit more forgiving or grateful or whatever, but there are some people who are just aren't satisfied, like it's too hot down here, or it's too cold, or it's too this, or it's too that. Can you just be grateful that it's different today? um it might be raining too much or not enough, but we're still here. Be grateful for what we have. Yes, I do believe that there are people who are messing up this planet with storms and things and stuff, just like they're digging huge open pit mines. They're polluting things. They're doing, see, absolutely. Mankind has created its own evil on this planet. But did the Creator do it to us? Did God do it to us? I don't think that either one of them are to blame, whichever you wish to believe in. And so take your pick. But I would just ask you to consider, hmm, um, and are we putting too much blame on either of those deities or entities, as you may seem, versus, like everything must be perfect for us? Well, things just ain't perfect. Well, then it's God's fault, or the Creator did it to us, or wait a minute, can it just be that's the way things worked out? You know, not everybody gets cancer, so is it the universe's fault, or not everybody has a kidney disease? I've got a minor kidney disease, which is my fault due to the all the non-aspirin that I took over the years and so forth. Um, and my heart disease is caused by my smoking and things that I've been taking over the counter, which they didn't warn you enough about. Um, but it was my taking of these things. Nobody forced me or made me. They were available and I took them. So is it God's fault uh, that I have heart disease and kidney disease? No. It's circumstances. I didn't know these things. I like ibuprofen and these other things would give me these things until recently. I didn't know it was bad for my heart. You know, I didn't know that cigarette smoking was bad, and that was my choice. But I didn't know that these other things were bad for my heart as well. And for your liver. And for, probably other body parts too. So not enough warnings on the warning labels. They aren't specific enough. And people are just, you go to the doctor and they say, well, take an analgesic. Well, take a few ibuprofen. Well, but you take a few ibuprofen, and that's what gives you kidney disease eventually, especially if you live long enough like me. So, but it was did the Creator do this? You know, is the setup? Well, no, the compounds are supposedly natural compounds or mixtures there of natural compounds. Some of it's just created, by man. So is man therefore inherently evil to make these over-the-counter drugs that for pain relief for people, which is going to give them pain in the form of heart disease and kidney disease and possibly liver and other types of diseases? And whose fault is it, right? Who puts the blame? I'm the one to blame because I'm the one that took them. Did anybody make me take them? No. But what about the companies that sold these things? And oh, it's safe to use. And even your doctor suggests you take one of these. And you go, well, wait a minute. Hang on. So is it Mother Nature trying to kill you? Is the planet Earth trying to kill you? No, but there are a lot of other things that are that have to do with men and women, mankind, I will say, or womankind, or humankind. Let's put it that way. So, but anyway, in the long and short of things, there's the moon out the window there. Long and short um of things is we need to keep an eye on stuff and make ourselves aware of things, but don't be like rabbit and live in fear. So, which was one of the cards tonight. So, rabbit calls fear to it. Eagle, here I am, come meet me, you know. And if the eagle doesn't come, then rabbit calls out a little louder, eagle, come and eat me, till the eagle swoops down and eats it. So rabbit is fear because they'll just stop in the headlights kind of thing and get run over um, and other things too. So rabbit is fear. But the thing is that don't rabbit is warning you to don't be in fear. Be mindful of things that can harm you, but it's not about living in fear. It's like no, 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 no. There are too many things that people are living in fear about that there's nothing they can do about it. There are things on the other side of the planet that folks are worried about. Oh my God, Margaret, they're at it again in the Ukraine and such. And oh my God, and Putin's going to bomb us all here in the United States. And oh, what about China? And oh, China. And, and by the time they're through with breakfast and a cup of coffee, their emotions are set for the day that all these things are going to kill them, and they're living in fear, and the whole world is crumbling to shit, and fear and fear and fear, and they're like rabbits. They're living in fear of stuff that they just there's nothing they can do about it. Nothing. And all we can do is the best we can do and live our lives in our local areas and our communities around our house or whatever it is that we're involved in. And stop worrying about all this other petty shit that I say it's petty. It's petty in that they ain't nothing we can do about it kind of petty. Now it's big time world stage somebody someplace else, and we really can't do anything about it. And that's what makes it petty for us. Because we're going to think about something that we just can't change. We just can't change it. Well, it's not like a petty theft where it only costs a few bucks. But to think about something you cannot change in any way is petty waste of time. That being petty. But anyway, oh, but yeah, the war in Ukraine is not a petty thing. That's not what I'm saying. Our choice, my year of involvement. Well, I sent $20 and bought a T-shirt. Well, okay, but did that affect the Ukraine? No. Did it affect the war? No. Did it stop anybody from getting killed? No. Did it stop any house or place from getting bombed or targeted? No. Um, so what you did was petty in the grand scheme of things. But I showed my support. Ain't saying that's wrong. That's not my point. But there are folks whose focus is on something they can't change. And Ukraine's just one of them. But all these people who, buy a T-shirt or send us something or do a thing. Now I know that there are folks over there. There was a show that was showing little old ladies that were, the supply chains and stuff have broken down and food's not getting where it used to get. And some of these elderly women were not getting much anyway, but they really wasn't getting anything because supply chain, right? And the stores not being open and that kind of thing. So if they had money, they couldn't buy food because it simply wasn't there. So I'm like, now that's a shame. That really is. So I'm all for helping them kind of poke out, and if there's a direct way, if it's you know, there's a lot of folks not too much faith in the Red Cross these days, but, there are some organizations that are supplying food and they're like taking food there and dropping it off kind of thing. It's sort of like Meals on Wheels, but it's for elderly and hungry in these places where that they simply can't get the food to these people. So that's not a bad thing. And in that respect, but you bought a T-shirt to support the Ukraine. Wait a minute. But now, if you bought food for the old people that are stuck and can't get out in the Ukraine, now that's different. Now you didn't change the war, but you bought food for a person. Now that's different, right? So, one thing, buying a t shirt because it's the fad thing to do, and I bought this t shirt to support the Ukraine, versus you spent $20 this month and nobody knows it, that goes to this certain, food bank thingy that's delivering, meals to these people. Okay, I would give $20 to them folks. Fingers crossed that it actually got to the to a meal and to the people. But Hi, how are you, TM? Look, my, I'm all for the natural healing. Yeah, me too. Having a hospital and healing people is a terrible business plan. We live in an upside down world. Having been in the hospital because of the heart attack and after, doing the back surgery thing, which was an elective, I volunteered for it. Um, but I thought at the time that it was absolutely necessary. And after seeing the before and after MRIs, it needed to be done. And the doctor did a good job. But, without the hospitals, certain things would not have, I wouldn't have known that I have cysts on my kidneys. I wouldn't have known that I have part of my heart is bad. And I could actually watch the video tape of it, which it ain't tape anymore, but I could watch the video of it and the inside of my heart beating. I've had several chest x rays, and from 10 feet away, they can take a picture of your insides. Where before you used to climb on a table and do these other things, and I still had to do that, mind you, before I had my MRI. They had me turn sideways and do this other thing, and with the old X-ray equipment, if you will. It had a new picture taker thingy, but it was still you had to stand up against the wall and that kind of thing. Um, but so hospitals, technology, it ain't all bad. It really ain't. There's some things that back in the day when I had to be in the hospital, oh my God, it was so ridiculous. And nowadays, it's amazing. Things have changed drastically. Well, I never saw a bedpan. So they bring a toilet next to your bed, but I never saw a bedpan. That was one thing that there were bedpans everywhere back in the day. Um, Other things too, like they didn't come around once in the morning they to change your sheets out entirely and give you a bath one way or the other. They never gave me a bath, nor did they bring me stuff to take a bath unless I asked for it. And they didn't change my sheets unless there was water or something, which I spilled on the bed a couple of times. Or when I was leaking from my back, they had to change my dressing and such. But they didn't change the sheets while I was there for 10 days, except when I left the bed or where back in the day they changed the sheets daily. Now they hardly change them unless there's something that's happened. So there's a lot of different things, just, you know, they can't touch anything without a pair of gloves on. There is fear in whatever, in anything they touch now within the hospital. You're going to die. I mean, when the folks that come here, they take my blood pressure. Um, well, I had a long sleeve shirt on when she checked it the other day, but because of fear of germs, they have these special wipes that they wipe down not only the stethoscope, when all they did was listen to my heart and listen to my arm, even, but they wipe them down with an antiseptic and they wipe the ear thing. And she was the one that was wearing them. I didn't put them on, but had to wipe them down. Had to wipe the whole thing down with the cuff. Had to wipe the thing they put on your finger to check your O2 level and everything. Had to desanitize all these things. And I'm like, all you did was touch me with the stethoscope, maybe the thing around my arm, but you had to disinfect these things before you put them back in your bag to go home. Okay. But anyway, well, listen, I love you all. It's been great hanging out with you. He died from an untreated until that became oh yeah, that's bad. I'm suing the hospital and care home for my dad's death. Oh, I'm sorry, Katniss. Oh, if I could have, I would have sued on my friend Marcia's behalf because she got a similar situation. She had a back surgery that was similar to mine done, and but had fallen and broken her shoulder, and because she was a large woman, could not turn over by herself, especially because of the shattered bones, and because she was outspoken and pissed off all the nurses and some of the doctors. They didn't turn her on a regular basis, and she got a sepsis in her back from the incision from her back surgery, and it got bad and it got into her system and it killed her, and she was reported to have died from COVID, but we all know more better than that. But I'm not a family member and could not stand up for her, and they blamed it on other causes, but you followed through on that because folks are supposed to take care of that kind of thing. So, and that was one of the things that I was worried about, but my incision looks great. So, knock on wood and thank God for that. No issues there, at least for me. But that was one of the big things that all the brochures and all the doctors have worried about. Don't get that thing infected. So, anyway, so I love you all. It's what 3:18 in the morning. There's one more hit in this little old pipe. It's almost at 20, so I'm going to leave you with the 20. It's going to take years, but yeah, don't let him get up. Don't give up. And they're going to keep it in litigation for a reason, and it's because they hope that you give up. Don't give up. Don't give up. I lost quite a bit of money on a we were suing a trucking company, and it took a year and then a year and a half, and it was like, well, what's going on? Well, it's still in litigation, and they want to know something about this, and it's still in litigation, and well, they're going to offer you this, and it's like, wait a goddamn minute. So, but after a year and a half, going on 2 years, because we just had a baby kind of thing, and we really needed the money. I was like, yeah, let's settle this thing and get it over with. When should have held out, should have really held out. But since you're not in a tight, hold out. We was in a tight. Oh, good deal, Katniss. Yep. Well, cheers, everybody. I continue to pray that each and every day, that each and every one of you will continue to learn how to accept and receive the knowledge, the healing, the wisdom, and the many blessings from the universe. And for the last couple of weeks, I've been bitching and arguing with the universe about why is my back hurting. Man, it does hurt. Do not get me wrong. At times, it's almost to the point of screaming. It's a good 7. A lot of times it pushes that 8 mark. And if I'm trying to stand up or walk, sometimes it pushes it more. But so why? Asking the universe, why me, Lord? Why are you picking on me? Well, I had the other MRI last week, well, 2 weeks ago now, and there's nothing showing. So what the hell's wrong? Why me? Why'd you pick on? Why are you picking on me? So I had to quit being mad about it. Well, why is this happening? I just don't understand. I just don't understand in that saying that. I just don't understand. And why is this happening? And I had another MRI and I couldn't shut up long enough for the answer to come to me. And that's what I said earlier. When they shaved off the bone off of my iliac crest on my hips, the aching of the bone hurt like hell for a while. And it used to go away and come back at weird times. And knock on wood, it hadn't bothered me in a while, but to the point though that now it dawned on me the reason my back, because I'm listening. Wait, Dave, you've got the answer. You really do. You got the answer here, but you won't shut up long enough for us to tell you or show you what the answer is. So here recently, I've had to give up. Oh, there's something wrong. No, there ain't. Well, now it's like, wait a minute, there ain't nothing wrong. There's nothing showing. We've had the test. So why the hell is it hurting? Well, I don't know. Well, why don't we know? Well, I don't know. And we're going to have to be on pain management. But why? How come? And so I just had to say, well, all right. Well, it's hurting. I've had to pretty much throw my hands up and go, okay, we're just going to have to muddle through this. That's just it. We're just going to have to muddle through this. Whatever it is that's happening, just going to have to go through it and see. And when I changed my attitude from what's wrong, oh my God, and that to going to have to just work through this, then the epiphany came. And I was like, oh, the answer was there the whole time, but I was so caught up with my own why, way, why, what, wait, what, um, oh, the reason is probably because of this. And having been through that, probably, oh, that's why I'm hurting. That's why it doesn't hurt in the same place each time, because there are different spots along the spine that are healing on their own. And now I'm thinking Bob the Builder's in there, and they're going, I'm going to have them go in there. And since if you think they've gone in, they went in with the grinder, that is true, and ground off portions of the bone, which is normally got a coating on the outside of the bone. So now they've ground the bone, and now they have opened up the pores in that bone. All right. And so it's now where it was glossed over and kind of smooth is now rough, even though they've ground it down as smooth as possible. It's still rough when you look at it from the side. Um, and you go, wait a minute. So you've opened up all these little veins and all these little pores that are in the bone naturally. That's sort of like a honeycomb kind of thing. And so that blood passes, between the honeycombs and along the little things in the honeycombs. Um, but so they opened up every one of those, and now instead of just having an outside that's got this coating over it, it's now opened up with this honeycomb kind of thing. And in a way, if you think about cutting a honeycomb on the comb with honey in it from bees, when you cut the comb, what happens? Honey oozes out. So they've cut the bone, the vertebrae, to open up the space. But they've also opened up these other areas that are literally, instead of a nice clean coating now, it's pockmarked. Okay. Because that's what the bone is like on the inside. So, but they tell you that there's no nerve endings on that. Well, you tell the bone that. So they've opened up the bone to all these other surfaces, trying to do me a good deed, which they have, because I'm not having the same pains that I had with the nerves being pinched, but I'm still having an incredible amount of back pain. Similar, but not. So, did the doctor do his job? Yeah. Did we plan on this? No, but I don't think the doctors know what they're doing. They're grinding stuff up and, well, you shouldn't be hurting. Go take these pills or whatever. But wait, there's a reason. And I didn't hear the reason for my own pain and situation because I was bitching too much about why. And so the reason I ask everybody to continue to accept and receive the knowledge, the healing, the wisdom, and the many blessings from the universe is because I'm still learning to accept. And I had to receive the message that they were trying to get across to me, but I was blabbing too much in my own head and in my own. And I had every right to, to why is this going on? I can't believe I've heard this bad, but I had to shut up and accept that whatever is going on, that I'm just going to have to deal with it. There's nothing critically wrong. Okay, we're good there. So I had to accept it. And then I received the reason why. And then I received, I don't know if there's a way to fix this other than to be patient and to use my visioning of guys in there using some spackling compound or whatever to cover over those areas, put a little Bengay on those areas that have been, ground away and are all kind of woo woo woo, and trying to get back to whatever the normal is. But considering how much they had to grind off and bone, there's quite a bit missing. you know. So they opened up the vertebrae a good bit, the bone that's there, but so that's the pain. And because there was, every bone in my lumbar area, so that's why sometimes it hurts more towards the top, and sometimes it hurts a little more towards the bottom, and sometimes somewhere in between, and sometimes a whole goddamn thing. And so it's like, wait a minute now. So, but it's not sending shooting pains down my buttocks anymore. Occasionally, but so the pain is more literally my spine. So why? That's the answer. Because my hips hurt. For months afterwards, my hips hurt and didn't have anything to do with anything else except they'd cut the top of the bone off. So why does my back hurt the way it does now? Because they cut the bone away. That's the answer. And I'm good with it. And now, knowing what I know, I can tell everybody, listen, I'm still learning how to accept and receive the knowledge and the healing from the universe. Then I will continue to pray